So I was thinking with this record, it's the below to Impera's above.
Oh, below. I thought you said blow.
Yeah, this blows. But in the sense that, Impera was definitely looking at a wider world in which we are subject, like a macrocosm. And this one is a little more microcosmic because it feels a lot more personal and introspective and human.
Yes.
Discuss. Is that fair? Is that a fair appraisal, do you think?
Yeah, that in a nutshell, that is exactly what it was.
Yeah.
Or is, as it exists. Yeah, I mean, I know I've alluded to the concept of making an extrovert and an introvert album. That was a plan sort of back in time. And, before making Impera, at some point, I guess I had that idea that there was going to be one album genuinely sort of focusing on stuff like that. And that I think that was the rationale behind, excluding. Now we're going into a song, but there are songs on Skeleta that was already in the mix for Impera. But because of the themes, I felt that, maybe I won't fight for that one and just let it become part of the introspective album instead. Impera was a, record that thematically, lyrically was all mostly about bigger structural damage or fault. And, as that happened to coincide with a state in a time where that was reflecting a lot of contemporary issues, I think that people really took it as like a deeply political album, which it is. I mean, I think that there's this misconception in rock. There's symptomatic sort of leaning towards like people sort of get a little bit more right or a little bit more left. And all of a sudden it becomes like a little uncomfortable to mix politics with music, even though it's always been political.
Yeah.
So because Impera didn't change the world that much, I did feel that I do not need an Impera 2 at all.
What do you mean it didn't change the world much?
No, you want to make a record that's going to turn the world around and make it better, right?
Yeah, of course. I think, but making any art, that's the aim, right? To make art that you're putting into the world, giving to and trying to make it better. And I think that just hearing you say that, it sounds kind of weird to me in the sense that it was that. Even if you expect it to have had a different effect, that doesn't alter the fact that it has gone out into the world, enriched people's lives in an incredible way, and had a truly positive effect. And it might not be that they've then sat there and kind of analyzed their personal or political leanings based on certain lyrics or certain songs and themes within the record. It's still made their life a better thing.
Oh, absolutely. Within the context of the people that are listening to what I'm saying. And that is a very important world. So I'm getting to that.
Okay. Sorry.
Which is like, I'm jokingly saying that I was somehow hoping that some of the comments I was doing contemporarily on that record, it's not like I'm thinking that what I'm saying is going to change the course of politics. But I definitely felt towards the end of Impera, and as I was looking into slowly getting started with writing a new record, I felt that although there are enough fodder in the world to keep on creating Impera 2, Impera 3, and 4, and 5, and 6, and I felt that I don't want to do that. I don't think anybody needs that, especially not within the context and within the forum where my listeners are. I believe that I want to write. I believe that I need, and therefore I believe a lot of people who are listening to what I'm saying need a different kind of album that is a reminder that there are other things in life than the world, if you will, because they are cohesively together and you are part of the world. And as much as structure and rain feels like this machine that you can't do anything about, you can. The society is built with you as a cornerstone in it, be it as from what they are regarding you as a consumer, or as a living, procreating person, you are also a thinking, loving, hating creature that deserves to live. And if you're hearing this, you are alive, so you're part of this. And every point in time, culturally, politically, throughout all of history, has always been a moment in time. Nothing has ever been forever. No structure has been standing forever. So all of these things that we now find apocalyptic is going to be gone.
I love this.
So you have to live with that the apocalypse will not come. And we have to treat each other and the world as if it's not a linear thing that ends.
I mean, you know, we're talking about these things which are obviously incredibly heavy to discuss, I think, because most people don't like to talk about those things because they just want to get through the day.
Me too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, amen. But I feel that, there's a couple of things I wanted to talk about. Something that you've always done, and talking about this is almost like the whole kind of spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down thing where, with the humor. Because there was a couple of moments where the first listen, I think I was walking through town maybe with headphones on, and there was a couple of moments where there was just genuine, I was laughing aloud. And I mean that in the best way. I don't mean that in a
hearing the record.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think cause there's certain things that, there's that kind of, the humor of it is great in places. Cause I think you kind of need that to temper the other things. In Umbra, for a start, that first riff, there's that kind of, you get that kind of dopamine hit of nostalgia, and it's like, and then the cowbell started. It is in Umbra, right? And as soon as the first cowbell hit, it just made me laugh because I was like, of course that's there. Of course that's what's meant to, do you know?
Yeah.
And I feel like, there's certain things where I think our tastes are quite similar at times. So I see these things and it's like, oh, of course, and it just made me laugh. And there was a lyrical thing as well in, Massilia Amori, and I'll probably get these lyrics wrong, but I wrote them down when I was thinking about it earlier, but they're probably wrong. Where it's a man of fate's hard to find. Show me yours, I'll show you mine.
All right. Right. Yeah.
It's great.
No, of course. I mean, my whole life has been, I think that there are people around me who also think that I'm sort of joking things away, and I have to sort of back down on an everyday basis. Yeah. To sort of not tell all the jokes that I hear in my head. What you're hearing is simply just a percentage of all the things that I'm thinking.
Yeah. But I think it's that careful sprinkling that makes everything.
Yeah, well, when you're making a record, you can sort of sit down and distribute them a little bit more tastefully. But no, I've always thought that humor is still, or satire, if you will. But you want that to be what else is worth living for, actually. I mean, if you can't laugh and have fun, I think most of the things that I'm interested in has a certain degree of fun in it. I mean, I can appreciate art that doesn't have fun in it, but there is definitely still an aura of humor surrounding most of it, especially in the context of which I'm enjoying it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, of course. So, opening track, Peacefield. It has that kind of beatific choral vocal start, and it's like the opening scene in a film, in the sense that it kind of lays out a lot within the course of it's 5 minutes ish. Yeah, probably about 5 and change, maybe. Yeah, that kind of sets out the stall, so to speak, of the record. So tell me a bit about that, because I feel like there's so many key moments within a record to be a cohesive thing, but it's almost like the opening and the closing are just the pillars, and that's not necessarily the way that records are made, obviously, because I feel that certain records you'll have a song that becomes like a tent pole almost, and that everything can get built around it, but there's such important key moments. So tell me a bit about this opening track.
I'm gonna hark back to a couple of their opening tracks just to sort of give you an idea. especially from Rats, Kaisarian, and now Peacefield, it's almost like I've wanted like an opening track that is in a way not addressing the elephant in the room, but here's where we are. This is the status right now of current affairs. And Peacefield is like, if there's one message there that I think is poignant to where we are right now, I think Peacefield is the one. The same way I thought that Kaisarian was the one, and Rats back then. I'm not going to dive into exactly why and all the details, but that's the one where it's like, this is addressing contemporary things. Whereas as soon as we leave that and go into the rest of the record, it's a little bit more timeless. The idea of tyrants and them passing away, and I want the listener to, as all of our, but I think that a lot of our ancestors have done throughout all history of time. They have understood somehow that times are like seasons. Times are like the night and day. It just continues to change. And so there's no, unless you're directly upon your imminent destruction and you're clearly not going to see the light of tomorrow's sun. But if you're somehow removed, but you feel like you're in this status quo of destruction, I think that there's a way to change your viewpoint if you just accept the times they are a-changing. And that is what Peacefield was, and I really like the title, and that was to me a very important. Even though I didn't write the record in chronological order, I have never done that. But I knew that I wanted to have that messaging, and I wanted that to have that name for how the record started.
Excelsus feels like the kind of is very much the memento mori of the record, and it really made me think of in Right Here, Right Now, the Rocky Erickson cover. The monologue that you do in that, and I've said this to you, I'm sure, it's so profoundly powerful, I think, the way it's delivered, and really beautiful. And this, as soon as I heard this song, it made me think of that moment. But maybe that's just because I'm contextualizing it in conversations we've had. But yeah, I thought it was really beautiful.
Thanks. I mean, are you talking about the song or the monologue in the film? Both.
The song.
Okay, the song. Okay.
But the monologue as well. That was it was a really powerful moment in that film. But yeah, it made me think of that as soon as I listened to the song, because it seemed to complement that.
It is. I mean, I think that that's a very universal issue, and I think that most people, maybe throughout their lives or at points in their lives or just recently discovered that the idea of dying is foreign and scary. And I mean, I am as well, of course, worried about that. But if we tie in Peacefield as a reminder that things will change, I'm not guaranteeing that everything will be 100% great for everyone forever, but whatever is going on right now will change. But where that is a bigger, rely on the world, Mother Earth, sort of staying in a round global shape, and we will most likely wander around or swimming around on it, Waterworld style. Who knows? Excelsus is the more personal finger pointed at you, listener, into your heart, that I know what it's like wasting life pondering about things that there's no way around the fact that you will not know what's going to happen on the other side as long as you're living. So as long as you are living, you should go full head on into things that has to do with living instead of worrying about what's happening then. I think Lacrima is not only a great song, but probably one of my favorites ever written, and has been since I wrote it. And I was like, that's staying.
So,
you know.
So you said earlier that some of these songs were, you know, some of them are quite old and were considered to go elsewhere, but didn't fit within the theme of things. Which ones were they? And how old are some of them? Because I think it's a bit like, I don't know, I find that it's when you have something that you want to give and have people hear to then go, oh no, I'm going to hold it back. That's tough. So what are the ones that kind of have been waiting to be?
Yeah, well, long story short is that, both, De Profundis, Borealis, and, Satanize were in the mix for, Impera.
Okay.
And, since, the one difference between this record and the last record was that on the previous record, I had one producer that was sort of collaborating throughout the whole recording.
Yeah.
Not through the writing process, but he came in later. That's the story about that record. It was like the producer came in quite late. And, as I was showing him all the material, you know, we have a very intellectual conversation about that, but also very deep rooted in like gut feeling. And he was like, I like that song. I like that song. I love that song. I love that song. That could be great. And, you know, he was just like sort of pointing at like this Kaiserian is going to be great. That song is going to be great. Yeah. Don't know about that one. I was like, Satanize? You don't like that? That's like Scorpion 77. Are you kidding?
Yeah.
You don't hear the and he was like, I don't know. And I was like, I'm going to try to change your mind. But in the back of my head, I'm like, if you don't get it, I don't want to hit my head into selling a song onto my own record. Why is that? Like, I'd rather have a conversation. Okay, you don't like it. You don't think it, if it doesn't move you, I can make my little pasta dish for someone else. That's fine. Because I saw a future. Or save it for later, basically. Because it doesn't matter. If you don't like hot dogs, I can make you something else.
Right.
Because I can still make you hot dogs, you know. So, and I think Borealis was the same thing. It was like, he sort of like didn't try, like really, you know, he was like, well, if we, you know, chop it up and slow it down and keep the, or whatever it was. I'm not gonna, so it's not a fault. It's just that he didn't get it. And I want songs to be immediate. I want songs to hit home immediately. Yeah. Even if it's just you and me in the studio, I want you to like what I'm saying. And if you don't like an idea, like a fully sort of fleshed idea, I don't want to force feed that to you. So that's why I felt, well, because the lyrics that were written for that song that thus far, at that point was clearly like, that's more of an individual song. That's going to be more of a, because it was not called Satanize first. It was called, something else. But the first verse was identical. So, I already knew that, well, that would fit very well into the more introspective record anyway. And it was the same thing with,
you already had that planned out while you were making the other one.
Yes. And De Profundis was also very, very, because that's a song about regret. So that didn't really have any connection with, Impera, the imperial themes of that record. So it was easy. So I'm happy. I'm really happy that he didn't like them or at that time.
Yeah. Sometimes things find their place that way.